Thank you very much for this tremendous welcome. I hope after hearing my speech, you still will welcome me. I've been asked to speak on the Indian economy and the facts about the Indian economy as well as the politics underlying it. So I'll first like to tell you that I will address the meeting in 4 parts. First, I will speak about what are our assets. I don't mean this in the financial sense, but what is it that this country has that we should be proud of and know that because of that, we can anytime become once again the developed country, the most developed country of the world. So I'll speak about the assets, then I will tell you something about what our liabilities are, and then I will speak to you about the potential that we have for the future, which are our potentials. And therefore, what I will say is, what is stopping us? Why are we not able to use our potential? And in that, I will also bring in the politics. I've been given freedom to speak as I like, but since I'm a party man, I will say less about my party than I will say about my opponents. But you will get the general truth, and I'll tell it like it is. First, about our assets. Till 1100 AD, we were the unquestioned superpower of the world. People came from all over the world, and that continued even after 1100 AD. And I'll tell you why I say 1100 AD. We came up till about 1600, 1700. And after the British came, the deceleration or the decline in the economy was much faster. 1192 was the year when Muhammad Ghori crowned himself as the emperor and took up Delhi. And that took place because of foolishness of one of our own people. And that was Jai Chand, who hated his son-in-law so much, Prithviraj Chauhan, that he made the biggest mistake of aligning with the enemy to take revenge against his son-in-law. And that was the first time we ever suffered a defeat. Otherwise, we were victorious. Our people from all parts of India were demonstrating both their economic progress and their military capability. The Cholas went up to Indonesia from Tamil Nadu, all the way to Cambodia, and the Gujaratis and the Maharashtrians and the Telugus combined to give the first ever defeat to the Caliphate led by Umar, who had conquered Europe at that time. And then he declared that he would come and conquer India. These 3 kings combined their forces, met his army in Sindh, and defeated him. And for 700 years, nobody heard about the caliphates again. So this is the background we have. But unfortunately, the history books later came to be written by our next looters, namely the British imperialists, and they understood that physically it is very difficult to defeat the Indians. And this can be seen from this fact, that Iran, which was called Persia those days, was ruled by the Zoroastrians. And the Zoroastrians that nation was conquered by invading Islamic armies. And in 15 years, they converted the whole of Persia, named Iran, as a 100% Islamic state. Next to Iran was Mesopotamia, Babylon, and again the Islamic forces conquered. It's now called Iraq, and in 17 years converted the entire population, either by killing or by conversion. They converted the entire population to 100% Muslim. Same thing with Egypt, 21 years, 100% Muslims. The Christians went to Europe in 50 years, 100% Christians. But in India, please know your history, which is not taught to you. For almost 700 years, this country was being attacked in various parts of India by the Islamic forces. They never conquered the whole of India because everywhere there was fighting going on, whether it was Shivaji, whether it was Rana Pratap, whether it was the Vijayanagaram Empire, whether it was the Ahoms in Ahom dynasty in Assam, or is Guru Gobind Singh. This fighting was all the time going on, but ultimately it was defeated. But as soon as we got just about the freedom, the British came, and we were at the weakest moment because we had been depleted of so much strength, resources, and the British were then able to, by a variety of techniques, take. And that also lasted about 200 years, 100 years of direct rule and another 100 years by indirect rule. But ultimately we overthrew them also. So this is what the British themselves had realized, that if these people could resist the Islamic forces, which are so terrifying in other parts of the world, they are people who cannot be fought physically, so they attacked us mentally. And Macaulay came, he abolished Sanskrit, so today, for the time being, we are speaking in English. But I'm telling you, in another 50 years, we'll all be speaking Sanskrit once again as a uniting language. Not because of us, but because the Americans have discovered that for artificial intelligence to store knowledge, the most computer-friendly language in the world is Sanskrit, and therefore it will be stored in Sanskrit. It's the language of the future, it's not the language of the past anymore. So anyway, they removed Sanskrit, brought in English. Macaulay said very clearly in his minute to the British Parliament, we must create an Indian whose complexion or is brown and different from us, but he'll dress like us, he'll eat like us, and he will have whatever morals we say he must have. So he wanted to create not a clone, but a person who would be then aware, subject to the wishes of the British people. And he said the day it seems that the Indian people will rise in military, with its military might, even the slightest indication comes, we will leave India. And that's exactly what happened in 1947. In 1945, the British defeated the Germans and became victorious in World War II. Everybody thought now Britain will remain in India for another 100,000 years. But what happened? The British decided suddenly in the middle of 1947 that they will leave India. And the only reason was, for the first time, the British Indian Army, under the influence of the Indian National Army of Subhash Chandra Bose, got infected. And there was rebellion in various parts of India. And they therefore decided time to pack up and leave and hand over power to a person who will not pursue us, and that is Mahatma Gandhi, and for which we all have to be grateful that he was present. Mahatma Gandhi mobilized this country. He made India into, to think again as one India, and he created a massive organization. Unfortunately, he was assassinated, and we could not get his services for at least another 20 years, which you could have got given the state of health he was in. So I would say that this is your legacy. This is your asset. Nobody can put you down. In 1962, the Chinese attacked us, and many years later, in 1977, Morarji Desai asked me whether I could bring about some communication with Chinese and settle this enmity. So when I went to meet the Chinese, and of course I myself speak Chinese, and the Chinese have a wonderful saying, Tian pu pa, ti pu pa, jo pa, yang gui zu hui shou zhong guo hua, which means don't fear the gods, don't fear the devil, but do fear the foreigner who can speak Chinese. It's such a difficult language. Why would anybody speak unless he had some motives which are not good for the Chinese? But anyway, the Chinese knew me as a person who was not the usual rabid anti-Chinese person. So when I spoke to them in dinner, they asked me this question, that what is it that holds India together? I said, what do you mean? We have always been together. He said, no, when in 1962 we were told that once the Indians get a smack, they will break into 20 countries. And this was the view of the Americans, the Russians, and so many others. But we found exactly the opposite happened. The opposite was that Indians joined together, women started taking off their gold bangles and necklaces and putting it in the Defense of India Fund, and India became one. And he said that, in fact, we consolidated your nationhood rather than put it apart. And that has been demonstrated so many times in our country. When in 1975 the state of emergency was declared, and all my colleagues got arrested, I couldn't get arrested because Mrs. Gandhi failed to arrest me. I even turned up in Parliament to make a short speech. Even then she could not get me arrested. But this country kept protesting. When the elections were declared, what did they say? The Westerners say, please, if you can get back their old news tapes. They said that democracy is for the educated. Democracy can only flourish where people's stomach is full. This election will certainly go in favor of Indira Gandhi. But it didn't happen. On the contrary, it exploded the thesis because the more educated South voted for Indira Gandhi and the more poor and illiterate North, all these chutiawalas drinking tea in chai dukans, you see, they voted wholesale against Indira Gandhi, defeated her also and her son also, disproving the thesis that education produces the change. In fact, it depends on what kind of education. Our education is enslavement. We think in negative terms. We suffer an inferiority complex towards the Westerner. And that is why when, after 1947, for 40 years, 1950 to 1990, when we adopted the Soviet economic model, our country grew at a maximum of 3.5% per year. And the communist intellectuals, like Amartya Sen, said, this is the Hindu rate of growth. How can you, by following the Soviet model, have a Hindu rate of growth? But in 1990, change came. I was part of that change. In fact, I produced the blueprints, which later Mr. Narasimha Rao used. And our growth rate went up from 3.5% to almost 9% in 5 years. But look at the situation and try to understand. Narasimha Rao should have got double the mandate he got in 1991. Instead, he was thoroughly defeated. His party strength went to half. Why? This is the dynamics you have to understand of change. We are capable of growing at 10% per year. If we grow at 10% per year, for 10 years, we'll overtake China. Today, under the PPP rate, that is purchasing power parity rate, our GDP is third largest in the world. On exchange rate basis, it is sixth or seventh. But that is not a proper thing, because exchange rate has got nothing to do with the market. It's got to do with certain artificial factors of speculation and so many other things. But in terms of intrinsic market, intrinsic strength, it is the purchasing power parity. That is, if you are going to compare India's GDP with American GDP, then either you should evaluate GDP of both countries in American prices or in Indian prices. Because for the same service, the prices are different. Haircut in America costs almost 6 times the haircut in India of the same quality. So therefore, on PPP terms, we are already number 3. And 10% per year for 10 years, we'll overtake China. And then our challenge will be with the United States. Because United States economic growth is entirely due to their innovations. These innovations we have seen over the centuries. What made the Industrial Revolution? Locomotives and Bessemer steel blast furnace. Then what made the American Revolution? All kinds of innovation, jet engines, teleprinters, later on fax machines, so on and so forth, calculators, mobile phones, internet. A series of innovations have kept Americans in the lead. And innovation requires brains. And India has a surplus of brains, but the brain has been brainwashed by the British to think negatively. Indians are traditionally risk averse. They don't like risk. And that's bad, because risk is the basis of progress. And how to take risk is there in Bhagavad Gita. But who reads the Bhagavad Gita? Tomorrow, if the Americans start reading Bhagavad Gita, we'll also start reading Bhagavad Gita. Risk is a sign of your rationality. And risk is always goes with failure also. Failure is a possibility. But without taking risks, you cannot make spectacular progress. I had occasion to address the students of the Institute of Management in Bangalore, which is supposed to be the best, or maybe second best, or whatever, but it's in the top. And I had dinner with the students, and I asked them, now after you get your degree, what will you do? And they said, we'll go and look for some multinational company and take an executive post. I don't think hardly anybody mentioned, I'll go and take some, borrow some money and start a company. Hardly anyone said that. I saw, it was my experience at Harvard also. I had students from about 40 countries in my big classes, the principal economics classes. And there, when I used to ask after the class was over, the exams were over, I used to say, now you're going out of the world. Please tell me what careers you'll choose. And I said the alternatives are simple. Either you become a millionaire, billionaire, do extremely well. I said, I told those students who are actually going to go into business, or you go to a place, become an executive, get a salary every year, your salary increases 5%, and you will retire at 60, 65, you will get your gratuity, pension, etc. And then you can buy a house and watch television. That is another life you can lead. Which would you like? So the American students used to uniformly ask me one question. Please tell us what is the probability of failure. Then we'll give you an answer. I used to give them the example of Microsoft, Bill Gates. I said, look, see, he took the risk, he quit Harvard, didn't take a degree, And he became a billionaire. Of course, he could have been discredited afterwards if he had failed, saying what an idiot he is, left a dropout and so on. But he became a billionaire. So I said this, so the risk, what is the risk of failure? If you tell us that, then we'll tell you the answer. But the Indian students in my class uniformly said, we will like this job in a big company and spend the rest of our life earning and retiring and living, having a nice vacation after that. So when I said to the Indian students, but that is guaranteed poverty. Here is a risky prosperity, but that's a huge prosperity. Why would you seek guaranteed poverty? So the Indian students would reply, because it is guaranteed, that is why we are choosing it. Now, this is the mentality which we have to get the Indians out of. Because this country needs innovations. And that's where, what is our liability? That we have an inferiority complex. We are afraid to stand on our own feet. We are afraid to create jobs for others and thereby create a job for yourself. Instead, you want someone else to create the job and you want to work for him. This mind revolution is necessary. Otherwise, without mind change, nothing can happen. Nothing much good can happen. We'll just be critical, negative, and so on. You see, people think that if a country has a big mass of people, it becomes a power. It doesn't, unless the mindset is there to be a power. You can have 1,000 goats in one place, and one tiger comes towards them. The majority is with the goats. The tiger is only one. But the mind of the goat is such that upon seeing the tiger, he gets frightened and starts running away. And then, of course, the tiger chases one of them and gets his lunch. That is where the mindset is important. Or take power. In a circus inside a cage, you'll see 5 strong lions and 1 ringmaster. And the ringmaster will order the tigers, climb up. And they'll all climb up on a bench. He'll make them go through a ball of fire. He'll then have them open their mouths. These lions will open their mouths and he'll put his head in each one of them. And the crowds will cheer. Why don't these lions bite his head off? Because they've been brought up from the time they were cubs to obey. And they obey. Even though they got so strong, they've been so well fed, they don't know any other way except to obey. So they obey the ringmaster. And we've seen that in life also. Manmohan Singh sitting in the most powerful chair of India. He may have the word Singh in his name, but before a thin, wiry Italian ringmaster, he obeyed. He was not an illiterate. He was a PhD in economics. He was a former full professor of economics, a very good friend of mine. But he just didn't have the guts because his mind was made up that way. Even when he sat in the biggest and most powerful chair, he did not. And that is the way also in India today. Most people don't want me to sit in any chair because they don't know what I'll do to them. This psychology has to go. You must learn to assert your authority where your national interests are involved. If the Americans tell you you can't buy oil from Iran, you should tell them, go to hell. Or give me oil as cheaply as the Iranians give, at 0 transportation cost, then I will not buy from them. I'll buy from you. But are we doing that? The moment such a request comes from our power, we begin to analyze what to do. There's nothing to analyze. This is the centuries of brainwashing that has happened. And this is why I say we need a renaissance. People misunderstand it, you see. They're saying I'm actually saying Hindu renaissance. This country has been long years. At one stage it was 100% Hindu. Today it's 82% Hindu. But there's no question. We have never thought that anybody's religion should matter. We have allowed Parsis. We have gave sanctuary to the Parsis. The Parsis have absolutely no complaint. When the British left India, they asked Parsis, "You are such a small country, the Hindus will swallow you. We want to give you reservations like we have given to reservations in parliament and jobs as we have given to Anglo-Indians." And the Parsi community said, "For 1,000 years the Hindus have looked after us. We don't need your protection. You go. The Hindus will look after us." The same thing with the Jews. They were persecuted everywhere in the world. One place they were not persecuted was India. When they came here, we built their synagogues. They rose to various places, high places in our army, judiciary, so many places. General Jacob, who liberated Bangladesh, he was a Jew. And all this happened, and when Israel was founded, the first resolution after adopting the constitution was a thank you for India, saying, "Thank you, India, you are the only country in the whole world which didn't persecute the Jews." This is the title we have. So this mindset has to come. And the mindset has to be focused on what your assets are, what your liabilities are, how to remove the liabilities, how to exploit your assets. Today, we have a huge agricultural sector. 60% of our people are working on it. And it gives you about 20% of your GDP. But this agriculture, despite all the miseries, and why is agriculture a miserable state? 1857, the peasantry of India decided to support Rani Jhansi to uproot the British, which the British call as the mutiny, which Savarkar calls as the first war of India's independence, which is correct. It was the whole, this is not only in North India the revolt was there. In Vellore, in fact Vellore, the revolt started in Tamil Nadu even before it started in North India. So there was a simultaneous national revolt, but one thing was common: the peasantry, the agricultural people, they supported this. They gave money, they gave men. It is then that the British, after they successfully put it down, they decided the back of the agriculture should be broken. And they were never again they should be able to stand in rebellion. So they appointed this Jamindari system, such systems in different variations other places of India. But the Zamindari system was recruit the criminals, give them the power to collect revenue on behalf of the British government. They can collect as much as they like, but they must give a fixed amount, which we designate as a fixed amount, to the British to run their administration here, and the rest they can keep for themselves. And they were empowered. That is, the farmer could not give the revenue, grab his land. If he didn't have any land, grab his brother's land, grab the jewels of his wife. This is the power they had given to the to the Jamindar. And agricultural decline for the first time began after 1857. And by 1947, we became the poorest agriculture in the world. In 1947, we should have not only sought industrialization, but we should have sought the revival of the agriculture. But we adopted the Russian model, the Soviet model, Jawaharlal Nehru's favorite imposition in our country. And that became progressive. The communists started saying, wow, Soviet Union, wonderful place, heaven on earth, no unemployment there, no inflation there, no poverty there. Nobody had seen Soviet Union, but they were saying all this and propagating it. In 1991, I told EMS Nambudripad, our most famous communist of those days, now there is no Soviet Union also. It's broken into 16 countries today. This country has not broken. Yugoslavia into 4, Soviet Union into 16, Indonesia into 2, Pakistan into 2, and very soon into 4. So, but this country has not broken. Everyone predicted this country will break, but it has not broken. It has stayed together, it has grown together, but we have therefore to understand that today, if you want economic growth on a stable basis, know your strength. Agriculture is your strength. Why? Because the yield per acre is amongst the lowest in the world. How is that a strength? That shows how much it can go up. Can it go up? Is the Indian land capable of sustaining it? Of course it is. Look, go to the Indian Agricultural Research Institute where they have experimental plots. How much rice do they grow compared to the rest of the farmers of India? 6 times more. 6 times more they grow on their experimental plot. If it can be grown on experimental plot, why not in the whole of India? Similarly, wheat. Wheat is also 4 times more. Every agricultural crop that is experimented in the Indian Agricultural Research Institute is that way. And with a little help in inputs, not in terms of minimum support prices, which is always subject to corruption and manipulation, but in terms of actively being able to provide them these basics, country will grow. It happened in 1965 when we nearly had a famine. We were depending on the American boats to come and give you bags of wheat. New York Times headlined, India living ship to mouth. Everybody is praying for another ship to come from America. Lal Bahadur Shastri brought in a package and gave it to 10% of our farmers only. And within 10 years, we became a self-sufficient in food grains. We have stopped having a problem of food grains. Now we have a problem of how to do the storage. It happened with just 10%. Look at the potential. 12 months of the year, you get sunshine and water. And you can grow 3 crops a year. But in only 25% of the land we grow more than 1 crop. United States has 5 months of the year they have snow. They can't do agriculture. Same thing with Europe. Good parts of China, same thing. But India, you can grow 3 crops. If you grow 3 crops, you can almost get triple the production without any new technological need or even monetary need. Only make sure that good seeds, pesticides, good practices, these are made available. We have not done that so far in the last 70 years of our independence. We have treated agriculture as a sick industry, as a sick sector. And this sector which gives you 60% of the employment. So this is a bad priority. It came because of an inferiority complex. We somehow wanted to be known as a great industrial power, and we adopted the Soviet model, which was what? Extract resources from agriculture and use it in industry. It worked in the Soviet Union for some time because the czars had created an agricultural revolution. And then to extract resources was easy. Here it's bone dry. What can you extract? Should have gone to the mind of Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru. He didn't listen to anybody. There was no one to tell him except Edwina Mountbatten, and she was interested in telling him other things. Those mistakes led to a situation, and finally, when Lal Bahadur Shastri did this, you got Green Revolution. It's not a revolution, but in comparison to what it was, it became a revolution. Narasimha Rao, what did he do? He made the market economy the core, gave up socialism, And the vested interest took revenge. And then his party also took revenge against him. Today he is not even remembered. I've written a letter to the Prime Minister saying in the next Republic Day he must get Bharat Ratna as a most deserving person for getting it. Bharat Ratna was invented to celebrate people who did good things for India. Of course, it was during Jawaharlal Nehru's term that Bharat Ratna was instituted in 1954. And when I became minister in 1990, and 91, 90, of course, Ambedkar got the Bharat Ratna. He also had not got throughout till then. But to my surprise, in 1991, when I was asked and I looked through the files, I found Sardar Patel's name not there as a person who got Bharat Ratna. The man who welded 500 kingdoms and made it India today what we have. Otherwise you would have had pockmarked India with all Rajas standing on their own. And that person did not get Bharat Ratna. So I looked at the files. First file, Jawaharlal Nehru says, I, Jawaharlal Nehru, Prime Minister of India, hereby award Bharat Ratna to Jawaharlal Nehru, signed Jawaharlal Nehru. All right, to feed your vanity, have it first. What about number 2, next year? Sardar Patel's name comes from bottom, crossed out by Jawaharlal Nehru. 3rd year, 4th year, 17 years he was Prime Minister, he crossed it out each year. Indira Gandhi also crossed it out. And the first time Sardar Patel got the Bharat Ratna was when Chandrasekhar was Prime Minister and I was holding the law portfolio. That time we got Sardar Patel his Bharat Ratna. The Congress says we are appropriating Bharat Ratna. You didn't even give him Bharat Ratna. We will not only say that we did it, but we'll say Sardar Patel is one of us because he built India. He welded 500 states into one India. The British didn't leave you only India and Pakistan. They left you with India, Pakistan, and all the kingdoms were declared as independent countries. 600 countries were declared as independent countries. And of which 500 Sardar Patel was able to persuade to merge into India. So I think these are some of the things that you have to know. That this is part of the mindset making. Agriculture should be made into a globalized industry. How? Because agricultural prices of our commodities, the prices of our agricultural commodities internationally is the lowest in the world. Take the price of rice. It is 1/6 the price of the Japanese rice, 1/5 the price of the South African rice. Rice anywhere in the world is much more expensive than Indian rice. So therefore, export rice. But we hardly do it. Wheat, 1/4 the price in Europe and America. We don't export it. Milk, 1/6 the price of Europe. And how many cows we've got? 150 million cows. And today the American science says that A2, that is Bos indicus, it's a special breed. In Australia they call it the Brahmin herd. I don't know why Brahmins have been brought into this, but it's called a Brahmin herd. But this special breed, its milk has got such medicinal qualities that is now been patented in the United States, and in supermarkets you can get along with the American milk, American cow milk, you get another carton which says A2, milk of the cows from India. This cow, 150 million cows, what is the yield we get? We get barely 200 liters per year, average. Average Israeli cow gives you 11,000 liters. So imagine if 150 million cows started giving you 11,000 liters per year. I won't have to get an air ticket from you to come here. I'll come swimming in milk. That much milk we will have in our country. So this is the mindset, the potential of India. What is it that we don't have? Today you want electric power, cheap. 60% of the world's thorium is in India, on the sands of Tamil Nadu and Kerala. When I first saw in the newspaper that somebody has been arrested because he was smuggling sand from India, I was surprised that which madcap would smuggle sand? I mean, why should the government even put a ban on it? Later on, I found out that the Tamil Nadu coast sands and the Kerala coast sands have a monazite which is thorium. And thorium converted to U-233 will become fissile, fissile commodity for the reactor. You can make bombs out of it, you can generate electricity. It will be the cleanest possible electricity. And we can give the whole country power 24 hours. And like on gas, Qatar gives it free to the consumers. We will probably be in a position to give electricity free. That is the capacity we have. But we have not done research on it. Some research was started by Homi Bhabha. Then Manmohan Singh closed it down when we signed that agreement with the Americans on this nuclear deal. So this is something that our innovation should do. And so many other things. You have a problem between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu about Kaveri water. Every year there's a demonstration. Some people get killed, firing, this thing, all that happens. And everybody has to take a stand. Tamils must take a stand for the Tamils and the Kannadigas must take the stand for Kannadigas. So when I was asked, I asked the people of Tamil Nadu, first you tell me, you want water or you want Kaveri water? If you want water, we will desalinate seawater and give you 24 hours a day in your tap flowing without any problem. But if you want Kaveri water, no, I won't give you Kaveri water. There's not enough water. Why should I fool you? When the rains come, the waters will come. When the rains don't come, you will be fighting. That's all. But what I found was that the desalination of seawater was being opposed by the tanker lobby of Tamil Nadu. Those who run tanker lorries, you see. So I got curious, why are they opposing it? It turns out that whenever there's a water shortage in Tamil Nadu, these tanker lorry owners make a huge profit, taking water from one place to another. And therefore, and then they give bribes also. And so therefore, no politician wants to touch this. But in India, we have two outstanding examples of desalination of seawater. People do all kinds of propaganda. Seawater means it is very costly and all that rubbish. And it's very technologically very difficult. But in two places in India, because of necessity, people have done it. One is Kalpakam in Tamil Nadu, where the municipality refused to give water to the nuclear reactor colony, to the scientists and so on. So they set up a desalination sea plant, and every resident of the Kalpakam Nuclear Authority gets water full time through this desalination seawater. The second one is this Reliance Jamnagar factory. The Jamnagar municipality said, no, we can't give you water. We don't have water. So they set up a desalination plant and produced not only for their own people, not only for their own polyester or whatever they are producing there for their production, but they have now started selling it to the municipality of Jamnagar, which is buying from them. Here is an example that you can solve. Same thing with so many others. We are horribly dependent on oil. Oil prices go up, we get nervous. But today there are alternatives there. Hydrogen fuel cells, electric cars, so many alternatives are there. These all require innovation. Innovation requires research. Research requires committing students coming fresh from graduation into a research mind so that they can all make a decent living also and get enough equipment. This requires a totally different approach to education. Education should be such that everybody should be able to go to college if he wants to, so that this reservation racket will not work. There will be no need for reservation. It will become redundant. And consequently, educations today only get 2.5%, 3.5% of the GDP as allocation. Long years ago, Kothari Commission in 1966 had meticulously calculated, said it must be a minimum of 6%. Americans spend 7% of their GDP on education. All countries which have become advanced today spend a huge amount on education. And therefore, our country, this should have been given priority. And this should have been, this is something which the British never wanted. Thinking Indian, who thinks independently, thinks for himself. And that is how we can come about doing it. For this, you have to encourage the people. Somebody asked me, if there is one thing today to remove the gloom there is in the country of the economy, what would you do? I said, abolish income tax. So he said, my God, where will you get the resources? I said, what resources? Total income tax revenue till very recently was only 4 lakh crores. And 4 lakh crores you get by one auction of 2G spectrum. And after this, 3G spectrum is also coming, 4G spectrum is also coming, 5G spectrum is also coming, and soon 6G spectrum will also come. And G means generation. I think once I had a meeting with Manmohan Singh when the 2G spectrum scam was going on, and I asked him, do you know what 2G is? He said, yes, Sonia G and Rahul G. So I said, Manmohan Ji, this is not correct. He said, that's all I need to know. Don't try to educate me. Yes, for him to be Prime Minister, all he needed to know is the 2G, Rahul Ji and Sonia Ji. You see. So I'm saying that these coal blocks have still not been auctioned properly. The day you auction it, you will get 3 times more than the income tax that you're collecting. 120 lakh crores are in foreign bank accounts in secret banking countries. There are 76 secret banking countries, they're there. Can you bring it back? Of course you can bring it back. The Egyptians have brought back the money of Mubarak. The Libyans have brought back the money of Gaddafi. The Filipinos have brought back the money of Marcos. The Americans, of course, are regularly doing it to all their citizens whom they discover they are getting the money back. There is a procedure which has been laid down by the United Nations, Convention of 2005, which you can see in Google. And by that we can bring it back. Why haven't we brought it back? Because our government had entrusted this whole thing to the Finance Ministry, and the Finance Ministry was not interested. Why it was not interested, that's another story, which we will have to have a separate lecture, because I'll have to document what I'm saying. But the fact of the matter is, it can be brought back. Can it be brought back in the next 6 months? Yes, it can be. And are you trying? Of course, I'm putting a lot of pressure on it. After all, I said I'm got Chidambaram charge sheeted. People told me nobody can charge sheet Chidambaram. Yesterday I was I was in court giving a deposition on the National Herald case. And I am sure to win it. That means Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Motilal Vora, Oscar Fernandez, Suman Dubey, Sam Pitroda, all will go to jail. They are already on bail. So is Chidambaram. So is Chidambaram. So is Shashi Tharoor. So more will also be coming. So that's why the Prime Minister said that the Congress party looks like a bail gadi. So I said, what is the destination? Tihar Vihar. We have to clean up corruption, otherwise you will never become a world power. Why? 5 reasons. With that I will try to terminate. I've taken a lot of your time. First of all, when there is corruption, you get substandard goods. This is supposed to be our most modern city. How is it that you can't even build roads, potholes everywhere, people dying or falling in potholes? Whoever looks at us from outside thinks we are some kind of barbarian country where people die by falling into potholes. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. You mean you can't build good roads in Bombay? We build the best roads in the world. Go to Malaysia, go to Nigeria, go even to Iraq. Even President Bush, after he sent his tanks which landed in Basra and went all the way to Baghdad to capture it, he said, well, looks like Saddam Hussein had built a lot of good roads. Well, fact of the matter is he didn't build, he just contracted India. And we built the best roads in the world, but we can't build it in India. What is the reason? The reason is corruption. The tender is changed, he puts substandard, the person who gets the illegally or the out of turn the tender, what does he do? He then puts substandard material. One monsoon it's out and another tender will be soon coming out. And again the same thing will go through. Corruption has done this to adulteration of your food stuff. You get all kinds of adulterated milk nowadays. Then corruption has ruined your materials. Your buildings are collapsing because the building materials are all substandard. So corruption affects your life right away. Corruption has completely distorted our investment priorities. Our country, 20–25% are below the poverty line, and we should be producing goods for them. But this country produces the best for luxury items, but is not able to produce minimum things, as I explained to you, like the road. It can't produce good clothes, cheap clothes for the people. Why? Because black money has to be spent. Some of it is kept abroad, but what you spend here, you buy a nice house, you put air conditioner in every bathroom, in every room, and you put Italian marble, you make the most luxurious house and live in it. And you have a luxurious life. So in our country, you find, if you did the calculation which I did through input-output matrices, you find that 70% of our investment is going directly or indirectly to produce luxury goods. Steel produced goes to build air conditioners. I mean, a factory for air conditioners. So what is this investment priority? This is totally unsuited for India. And because you have to pay corruption, therefore your transaction cost goes up. And transaction cost goes up means what we call as the capital output ratio. If capital output ratio is 3, it means to get 1 rupee income perpetually every year, you have to invest 3 rupees today. So higher that number is, the more inefficient is your production. What is India's capital output ratio today? 4.5. What is Japan's during its heydays of growth? 2.8. What was United States capital output ratio? 3.1. And why is this number significant? Because take the rate of investment, which means total investment divided by GDP. That's called the rate of investment. That rate of investment of India is today 36% or 0.36. Investment is 0.36 of GDP. So 36, write it as percentage, divided by 3 will give you 12% growth rate. If you divide by 4.5, you will get 7, little more than 7. No, yes, a little more than 7. And that's what we have today. Without any new mobilization of resources for investment, our country can grow at 10% per year, 12% per year by removing corruption, by bringing, that can be done. And how it can be done, I'll tell you in a minute. But the fact is that corruption is corroding our system. Those who are putting money abroad are doing it through Hawala agents. These Hawala agents, you see, are operating in Dubai, and they cannot operate without telling ISI of Pakistan what transactions they are doing with India. So every minister, high-level official, his Hawala operations is known to Pakistan. Do you think our country's national security is safe if Pakistan knows who's got what bank account, where, and how much? He will publish it tomorrow, your career is over. Why you find all these people cooing about Pakistan, even after they are killing our people on a daily basis? It is because of this fear that you might be exposed. That is the way your national security is being hampered. Every way corruption is cancer. How to cure it? The best way to cure it, according to me, mathematically determined. I applied the theory of probability and applied it to this, worked out the expected values of bribes, and I said, if the expectation from a bribe is that either you will have the bribe or you will go to jail for it, then the probability of going to jail will be a factor. So if you calculate the expected value in such a way that the punishment is so tremendous that it is not worth taking a bribe, even if it's a small probability of not being caught, of being caught. So how should you go about it? Catch the big people first. Not the policeman, not the clerk, that later. But you won't even have to catch him, because the day he sees the top people are going to jail for corruption, that day will say, if it can happen to them, what will happen to me? And he'll become honest, you won't have to work for it and deploy a police force. That is why I am trying to send Sonia to jail. Because if she can be sent, people told me in Tamil Nadu, oh, Chidambaram, nobody can touch him. All judges are in his pocket, all police commissioners are in his pocket. So I said, but I'm not in his pocket, so. One man can make the difference because the system is like that. You know how to operate the system, you can do it. What am I doing in National Herald? National Herald is shocking, you can't believe it. There was a publishing company called Associated Journals Private Limited, which used to publish a newspaper called National Herald. And one day it closed down, 2008, saying that we can't repay our debt to Congress party, and therefore we are closing down. Now that was a lie, because they had 5,000 crores worth of property. They could have easily sold one of that and paid the bribe, the loan amount which Congress party had allegedly given to them. But they had other ideas, so they closed it down. Then suddenly, a new company was created. The new company was called Young Indian. 5 lakh rupees is the authorized capital, of which 80% in equal measure belongs to Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, and then the remaining 10% belongs to Motilal Vora and Oscar Fernandez, and 2 directors are also there who have no shares, Sam Pitroda and Suman Dubey. So 80% of this company is with mother and son. Now, they have a meeting and they decide that, you know, National Herald is closed down. They've got lovely, lovely buildings. And therefore, what Mr. Motilal Vora should do as director, go to Congress party and tell them, since you cannot recover this debt, therefore you assign it to us. We give you 50 lakhs. Now, how a 5 lakh company can give 50 lakhs, I don't know. I mean, I know, I will tell you that later. But so, Motilal Vora goes to Congress party. And there he speaks to the treasurer of the Congress party. And who's the treasurer of the Congress party? Motilal Vora. So Motilal Vora speaks to Motilal Vora and said, you can't recover this. So therefore, give it to us, here's 50 lakhs. So Motilal Vora gives to Motilal Vora the assignment letter. And then Motilal Vora goes to Associated Journals and tells them, listen, you can't pay 90 crores. And the 90 crores has been assigned to us to collect. So we suggest the following, you issue 9 crore shares at 10 rupees each. And we'll write off the debt. So the chairman of the board was very pleased. The Associated Journals chairman is very pleased. He said, okay, I'll get a shareholders meeting and okay it. And who's the chairman of the board? Motilal Vora. And the board of directors, who are they? Oscar Fernandez, Suman Dubey, Sam Pitroda, and these 3. They are the majority. So, look at how cozy it is. A company of these people, even a Congress party, at that time the president was Sonia Gandhi, vice president was Rahul Gandhi, and Motilal treasurer, and general secretary Oscar Fernandez. So in total conspiracy and collusion, a company with just 5 lakhs is able to get 50 lakhs from a Hawala company in Calcutta, which has entry, it's called an entry company, or something like that. You pay your black money and they'll give you a check. That is their work. They got that check, gave it to him. And this 5 lakh company now becomes a whole, almost the wholly owned subsidiary, it becomes this AJL or Associated Journals Limited. And all the buildings, everything becomes theirs. And what they've done with the buildings, removed all the printing presses, everything, and they have rented it out to Passport Office of the External Affairs Ministry, not during our time, but done during their time. And we are trying to close it, but I'm having a lot of problems, but I'll close it in the end. Otherwise, I'll send the External Affairs Ministry people also to jail for participating in corruption. So, this is the way they have looted the country. Sonia Gandhi has got 11 lakh crores in foreign bank accounts. All that government of India has to do is to follow the United Nations procedure, put out an ordinance saying that all these bank accounts in secret banking countries are henceforth nationalized. And the United Nations will help you get it, as they did for Egypt, as they did for Libya. Why has it been done today so far? Well, I don't want to say anything because it's not fair to criticize somebody who's not well nowadays. So it was not done because the finance ministry didn't want it. But today, I'm urging the Prime Minister, please go ahead, otherwise we'll find it difficult to face the public in 2019. So once you remove this and this capital output ratio comes down, you'll be growing at 10-12% per year. In 10 years, your poverty will vanish. It will jump down to 3-4%. And there will be full employment. When there will be full employment? When you encourage small and medium industries. Why are you not able to encourage today? Because the interest rates are too high. We had a governor called, of Reserve Bank called Raghuram Rajan. Now the media was so manipulated, they are calling him a great economist. He was not an economist. He was an IIT engineer. Then went to All India Medical, IIM, Indian Institute of Management. And then went to MIT and got a finance degree. Finance is not economics. Economics is a general equilibrium system. Finance is bilateral. And everyone who makes this mistake of not recognizing the distinction gets into trouble. The United States President in 1925 called all economists and said, there's too much unemployment in the country. How do I reduce it? They said, well, according to the laws of economics, demand and supply, lower the wage rate. By talking to the unions, talk to them and get it reduced. And unemployment will go because employment will grow. So President said, yes, sounds logical. So he persuaded the unions to agree to a 10% cut in wages. And found within 1 year, unemployment increased. And he was shocked. He called the economists again and said, what has happened? None of them had a clue. What had happened was that when you cut wages, you cut purchasing power. When you cut purchasing power, you cut demand. When you cut demand, countries on the margin, companies on the margin, they will close down. That will be more unemployment will be created. So there is that problem. That there are so many connections. This is what I call by general equilibrium system. Raghuram Rajan was going on raising interest rates. Why? He wanted the prices to come down. Well, small and medium industries were closing down because the cost of capital was going up. And therefore, unemployment increased. And there was a depression in the economy. And he was saying, no, this is not enough. He was going on raising it. I told the Prime Minister, what he's telling me is like a doctor saying, I couldn't control the temperature of the patient by any other way, so I decided to kill him. At least the temperatures came down. This is the kind of cockeyed economics that these people have been implementing in our country. We have all these problems this way. Demonetization could have been a great success if we had in advance printed 6 times the 100 rupee notes that we have to. Now they are going to about print. But you could have done that. And announced that whatever old notes you have, no questions answered, put it in your own bank account. And government will take 15% of that as our tax. And you can withdraw 20% of that for your cash, in new notes. And the remaining will be in fixed deposits at 2% interest rate for 5 years. This country would have been rid of black money by a big measure by that method. I gave this suggestion to the Prime Minister. He forwarded it to the Finance Minister. And what do you think the Finance Minister did? He said, no, why 15% tax? Let's have 50% tax. So half will go to government. And of the other half, 20% you can take as cash, 70. Remaining 30% at fixed deposit with no interest rate, 0 interest rate. Who will do it? When the bank officer is ready to give me a 15% discount, why I should pay 50% to the government? This is the problem of getting lawyers as finance ministers. There was once a football match going on in hell. So one person kicked the ball very hard. It hit the wall separating the hell and heaven, and the wall broke down. So the heaven people came across to the wall and said to the hell people, you've broken this down, build it. So the hell people said, why we should build it? You are afraid of our coming there. We are not afraid of your coming here. So you build it. So they said, all right, we'll go to court for it. They went to court. Both sides did full search, talent search of theirs, and came up and went to court in the morning. The hell people had brought a battalion of 25. The heaven people couldn't find a single lawyer, so they had to come and argue themselves. That is what happens to lawyers. They ultimately end up in hell. I don't mind saying this in the absence of my wife. She's a lawyer too. But law is a great noble profession. It's supposed to liberate the country, not find ways to trap people and make the innocent look guilty and guilty look innocent. But the fact of the matter is that all these issues have a solution. Low interest rates. Don't have interest rates higher than 9%, and fixed deposit rate also should be 9%. Income tax abolished. Excise tax brought down to a maximum of 22 commodities, because those 22 commodities give you 92% of the excise revenue. Why have it on all of the others? Simplify the system. Driving the economy should be based on incentives, not on fear. Fear cannot produce results. What can produce results is incentives. Whatever has to be done has to be done by incentives. So I'm saying, what is the problem that we have we cannot solve? It can be solved, and it should be solved. And I think as the way things are going, we are moving, we are much better off. People say, is your government less corrupt than the previous government? I said, of course. Why? Because nobody has filed any case against us. So they said, why don't you find out and file a case? I said, why? I've got only 24 hours a day, and it's not my job. I will file cases against Congress. Congress should file a case against us. This way the country can be balanced. Otherwise, it's just wild goose chase, we are not interested. This is, after all, if I may be allowed to say, perhaps the most honest government we have, relatively speaking, since 1947. And despite whatever anybody may say, this is the most democratic party I have seen. This doesn't belong to any one family. Anybody can speak out of turn. I speak all the time out of turn. Nobody says anything to me. People come and ask me, don't you think you'll get into trouble? I said, you must be from the Congress party. We have our democratic differences, but we work for the same goal, to make India into a developed country in 10 years. That is what we should strive at. Thank you very much.
Sir. You know what? We're going to have an interactive session as well now. I'd request you to please take your seat. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I told Sir when he came in, I said, this is the most power-packed audience on the face of this planet. So I'll tell you how we're going to go about this. You can sit down. You can sit down. You can sit down. Whoever makes the maximum noise and grabs my attention, either by whistling, clapping, or shouting Mobik, gets to ask a question to Sir. We have a lovely hostesses who are like your sisters, who are going to come to you with a mic. All right? So who is the first person to ask Sir a question? Sir, okay, 1, 2, 3, who's the first one? Okay, that lovely person with the lack of hair, Sir. Sir se sawal puchiye. How are you, sir? Good morning. अरे सुनो यार माइक पहुंचा दो आइए दौड़िए सर दौड़िए all right, round of applause for the first question of the day.
Good morning, sir. Yeah. My question to you is, you have elaborated a lot of things in your speech, how to grow India and make it a developed country. You are being a part of BJP,
yes,
but still we are not able to follow the procedures in process to make it a good country the way you have suggested. So what is dragging us back?
You see, either you should have economic advisors who have the guts to tell you the truth, or you should have political people who don't threaten the opposition. Now we are falling between two stools. Our economic advisors from Niti Aayog and this and that, they are all boneless wonders, they are almost become propagandists for our government. That is not good. I cannot be an advisor because there's always a lurking fear. What googly is this man going to bowl us and get us out of power and sit in their place? So, therefore, at this moment, there is no process. And the process can only come when Narendra Modi, who is a fine leader, very upright, and I have known him since 1972, I think very well of him. But he's not a team player. He has no team. And therefore, much happens on the basis of who tells him what and what he gives out. I hope in 2019 he will change his style and become a team player. And have people who disagree with him also politically, but who have public popularity. And I will be very frank with you today, all polls that have been privately been consulted show that I stand as the second most popular person in the party, but I don't get consulted on anything at all. I have personal relationship, through that I make it known. So whatever I do outside the party system, and that is one of the weaknesses that we have, which we need to correct.
Sir, a brotherly note has come to you, all right, for someone who's very close to you in the audience. All right, next question to sir. Who's that going to be? I can't hear you. Sir, the person the furthest. Good morning, sir. How are you, sir? What's your name, sir? Loud se boliye. अरे माइक के बिना भी बोल सकते हैं सर, कोई टेंशन नहीं सर. Power comes from within, sir.
Good morning, sir. This is Vikash by this side.
Yes.
I just wanted your opinion, or rather your views. You spoke a lot on this taxation thing.
Yes.
But when is this tax terrorism going to be ending in this country?
Well, you make me finance minister next day.
So when you're, so the next question would be, when will you be the finance minister?
Well, I can be finance minister if I threaten Modi that if he doesn't make me, I'll unseat him. But I am in no mood to do that because I like him, so I want him to continue. What?
अरे सर सुनाई नहीं दे रहा सर, वो माइक पहुंचाओ ना सर, इतना जावा सफाई है.
Just to ask you one more on that, sir, we belong to a capital market industry. And last year, this long-term capital gain tax came into existence for us. Whether it is going to make any significant difference to government's coffer or not is a subjective matter.
That's right.
But then, at the same time, people from bureaucracy coming and saying it that this is one industry which does not require any brain or any effort to make that capital gain. I mean, how should that be taken?
Well, we have a lot of lunatics in the bureaucracy in the Ministry of Finance. And some of them are going to go to jail very soon, then you'll get relief. And I'm serious of that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next question, please. I can't hear you. अरे सर आवाज ही नहीं आ रही है यार. अरे ये जो जेंटलमैन खड़े हुए हैं सर, आपकी enthusiasm दिखती है वहां पे. Good morning, sir. क्या नाम है आपका?
Thank you. I am Rajesh Agarwal.
Yes.
I'll just define Swamy sir as smart, witty, absolutely marvelous youth icon. How do you define India?
India is a country full of magnificent diversities, but it is united in its soul. It is heterogeneous in its ideas, and it is a country with a heart which has always welcomed genuine refugees and looked after them, and it is a fierce fighter which will fight forever anyone who tries to conquer us.
Sir, he called you a youth icon. Yes. I think you are youth, sir. All right.
The reason is I give tension to others. I don't keep any with myself.
Well, I must tell you, sir, you look very light, yaar. You always look light. All right, Ramdev, sir, good morning. Kaise hain aap?
I must tell you, I've got to catch a flight to go back.
Sir, last two questions, sir.
Yes.
Satyama, okay, last two.
Good morning, sir, and thanks for coming here. My question to you is, what do you think of this current mess of public sector banks? And what's your good idea of how do you resolve? It's a big problem.
Well, the real problem arose because the money was taken on influence. And we have to make sure that we don't sort of kill the whole industry or the whole system because some people have been able to manipulate and get what they want and then not pay. Some of these laws that we have brought in are now going to take effect very soon. And I'm sure that the confiscation that we'll carry on, and also the fact that we are prosecuting these people, we are not letting anybody go, that will change the climate. Loans have to be given, and I believe they should be given at a much lower rate of interest. Half the NPA problem will be solved if we reduce the interest rate, and it should not be, the prime lending rate should not be less than, more than 9%. In that case, our countries in the future it can be done. No bank is going to collapse because the state can always recapitalize it. In fact, the banking system in China is 10 times worse than ours. But the government there has made a decision that we will not let any bank, any of the 4 public sector banks that they have, collapse. So the same way we have made, and I think we should stick with it, that no bank will be allowed to collapse. No depositors would lose their money, but we will recover from those who have brought the banking system to this level by confiscating their properties and auctioning them.
All right, we've got the last question coming up. Yes, sir.
Sir, so this is not to do with economics or politics, but you are my idol for one thing, which is about talking straight.
Okay.
And I hope that someday...
That's not a very smart thing to do, but I'm doing it.
No, but why I said you are my idol in terms of talking straight is because it helps you lead a better life. I mean, most of us don't talk straight with our mother even.
Yeah.
So, what is it about you, or what do you think? What do you attribute this ability to, whereby you can? I mean, like I said, we don't talk straight with our family. Yeah. You talk straight with 125 crore people. Yeah. What is it about you which gives you that ability and strength?
I love that question. Point blank. That was straight talking as well.
Well, it's not everything that I speak out. If I see an ugly woman, I don't tell her, I say, how come you are so ugly? That's not... my job is in the public domain to speak the truth. Why? Because I have this faith that this country's theology, this country's culture has been based on this slogan, Satyamev Jayate. And therefore, those truths which are personal, we may keep to ourselves, we may not show our like or dislike for somebody. But where a social effect takes place, or the country at large is affected by truth and falsehood, there, if you speak, you earn sufficient punya to protect you. And so far, I've been all protected throughout. And I'm certainly a believer that speaking the truth in the social, for the social good, creates karmas for you, which takes you away and saves you from all those who try to harm you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a huge standing ovation for Mr. Swamy as well, please. And sir, we love you for your honesty. May you always be like this. Looking at you, we always want to be honest citizens of India. Give it up for the force that inspires us to be straight, talk straight from the heart, and karmas protect you. Can I request Mr. Ramdev Agarwal and Mr. Motilal Oswal to please come as a humble tribute and as a way of saying a big thank you to sir, a token of appreciation as well. Please give it up for Mr. Swamy, and this has to be loud and clear from the heart. I like this. Mr. Swamy, I want a selfie with the audience and all of you. Anna, Inga Pakalama, sir. Sir, here. Sir, come in. हाँ, आप भी आ जाइए. और आपकी हाथ आने चाहिए पीछे से. Thank you so much, sir. Romba sandosho, sir. I, on Siddharth Kannan, on behalf of the entire crowd, say, sir, always be the way you are. Long life. God bless you. Thank you. We've got another session coming up right now, ladies and gentlemen. This is another stalwart who is going to be with us in a few seconds from now. He's already in the hall, ladies and gentlemen.